welcome to the Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Another day, another guest, a very special guest. It's Joe Rare, and Joe is the owner and CEO of Level 9 Virtual. I won't go into details right now of what Level 9 Virtual is doing, but let's directly give the word to Joe.
All right, so I'm in Montana. We live up in the mountains, and it's a really cool area, small little ranch town. And then the businesses, I built 4 different digital-based businesses, and so each of them are run by virtual assistants. So that's kind of like my claim to fame. So I don't actually operate my companies. I have teams of people who operate them, and my entire mission as an entrepreneur is to build businesses that are operated by other people. So I don't build a business and then try to get out of it. I build a business around my lifestyle. So I choose what I want, how I want to be living. So like right now it's about to hit winter and I snowmobile all winter. And so what we need to do is get the businesses up, get them running, and so that other people are running them so that I can go snowmobiling. And so that's, I'm really, really heavy into time, time with my family, time with my kids. And the businesses that we create, that's exactly what we do it for, is to give us freedom. And Level 9 Virtual happens to be a virtual assistant services company. So we provide virtual assistants to small businesses. And, we just say, hey, do what Joe did, because he doesn't run his companies, the VAs do. And so we want to leverage virtual assistant services to allow people to build businesses, create more freedom, and actually have a life that they enjoy.
Okay. I think that's a pretty good system. You've done it, it's proven, it's great.
Yep.
I think it's amazing. It's like building, like from my side, building an e-commerce brand, and running it, and it works, and building a lot of them and just let them run through virtual assistants. Yeah. That's kind of a dream.
Right.
But for us, it's pretty hard. It's I think it's a bit different, but it's always possible. And I believe that 100%. And you are the living proof of that. So, how did you come to this business? When you're in Montana, for example, I'm pretty sure there's not like we already said, there's not a lot around, and you sit there and you think, okay, what can I do and how can I do it in the best way, and on top of it, to help me and to help other people around. How did you got there? Montana, are you originally from there, or is it just your choice to be there?
Yeah, it's a choice to be here. Yeah, we wanted a much simpler life. My wife and I were both from California originally, Northern California, but it's so funny because where we were from in California is very similar to here. Small ranch towns, small farm towns, like that's where we grew up, is in small little communities. So moving here was very similar to where we already lived. But I've lived all over. I lived in Colorado, and I lived over back east and Seattle. And I've tried different cities to figure out what I liked. And it's kind of funny. We reverted back to towns that were similar to how we grew up. But, thinking through businesses, it's as simple as finding a solution to a problem, right? If I come across a problem and I think, I've seen that so many times. How can I solve that? How can I solve that issue? Because I have that issue. My clients have that issue. How can I solve it and make it better? My first business that got me into kind of the digital world was an e-commerce business, and I sold health products on the internet. And this is back in 2009, 10.
Wow. The golden times.
So I started early. And that was like one of my first businesses, and we knocked it out of the park. And then, because they were supplements, then the FDA got involved, and, it blew up and all that. So, but that's how I cut my teeth into the digital world. And that business ran 100% run by virtual assistants. So we had supply houses, and we had, shipping company, and we had everything contracted out. And back then drop shipping wasn't really a thing yet. It was just kind of getting going, and it was still kind of messy. But we went straight to the lab and had them create products for us. They shipped it to a warehouse. The warehouse shipped it for us. And all we did, my only job was, when there's inventory's running low, I buy more inventory, and then the VAs run everything else. And so that was like my first step into the digital world. So it was pretty fun.
Wow, I can imagine, because you don't have to be there. Literally, and that's why you can as well go to places where you want to be, and where life is still acceptable. Because I agree completely with you. Living in crazy cities where we don't actually have to be is yeah, why should we do that? Why should we do this to ourselves? It's like a punishment for me, to live in a monstrous city and then like live on in a small apartment while I can have a lot better like in another country or something, because I know the US is super big, but when we talk about Europe or we talk about, Asia, we can go fly wherever we want in a few hours, and just go and have a pool and a house for the same price as you pay somewhere in a large city. So I understand completely what the goal here was. Did you like slide into there, or did you have a plan and say like, okay, I need to do something, or was it just like the beginning of health supplements that you enjoyed, or did you take them yourself, or how was the brand built on yourself
No,
by
so
yourself?
so it started. I read the book, The 4 Hour Work Week, and I had just been like heavy into the real estate industry,
Okay.
and when the market crashed in 2008 and 2009,
Yes.
I got caught in the middle of all of that, and so we lost everything that we had during that market crash. And when I was starting over, I had a friend of mine gave me the book and said, "Hey, you should read this. This kind of seems like it'd be interest to you." So I read the book and I said, I'm gonna build something with this. And I sat down and I literally page by page, every single page, I built the entire business based off of the book and built that. And we went from 0 to like 1.5 million a month and like instantly. And it really, really did well. And then the FDA crashed down like 4 years later, 5 years later. And so then that led me into marketing, and I started doing, big marketing projects with companies. And then I built an agency, and then, it kind of took me all over the place. So that's kind of
So
how I got into it.
okay. No, it's very interesting because I like the story of the health supplement, and because
Yeah.
it's an entry for everything, and as you mentioned, the FDA, now they got even, it's still not the strictest, the US, Europe
Right.
and everything. I just don't recommend to do any supplements over there,
Right.
but for the US it's still okay. For the US it's still okay if you have like a decent budget and want to do some supplements. It's still really good.
Sure.
So afterwards, after this, did you sell the company, or did you just let slide it out?
No, because so one day I woke up and I had an email from a payment processing company that we used to process our credit card payments, and they shut down the product, and they
Okay.
wouldn't let that product be
Wow.
processed as far as payments go. Just literally, I woke up one morning and the account was shut down.
Yeah.
And we found out that it was literally pressure from the top, from the FDA said no more. And so all these companies kind of abide by it. And so literally I went out of business in a day.
Wow. Wow.
And
Not
we
even time. That's
we
wow.
scrambled around looking for other payment processors and high risk processors. But even, remember back in 2009, that,
There were not
finding
many
payment
around.
processors, there weren't as many options, and
Yeah.
then fast forward a few, 4 or 5 years later, there were more options, but it's a process, right? You have to go through, you have to apply, they look at the products, they look at your website, they do all these things. And like Stripe didn't exist, as it is today, the
Yeah.
same way that it was back then. It was tough to really use all these payment processors. And so I decided, all right, this is an uphill battle. And the guys that are up above me
Yeah.
are
They're
the
much more
FDA.
powerful.
They're way more, there's no chance, right? Why am I going to go fight and spend my money to fight if I could just go do
Sure.
something else? And so I went and did something else.
Yeah, that's great, because most of people would like, I mean, back then, I guess nobody would have thought like I can sell that company, like maybe,
Yeah. But you
it's
can't
more
sell
a
the
trend.
company if you can't take payments.
Exactly. That's the thing, I
Yeah.
mean, you had the structure, you had everything, but a few more years down the line, there would have been, I would say, Pioneer, some
Oh
companies
yeah.
which would have helped, to push
Yep.
it through. But this is definitely something really interesting. So going down the line, you mentioned consulting, you mentioned a few other things. 2015, 2016, up to COVID. What was happening there?
Oh,
Was it growing
well,
already?
yeah. I owned a marketing agency, and then we were just doing kind of everything for everyone. And then I ended up well, let's see. My partner in the business was in charge of business development,
Okay.
and he was not developing new business. And so we ended up kind of just with this flat line where we weren't growing at all. There was no growth whatsoever. And then we had two clients that were about 40% of all of the company's revenue in just two companies. And so both of them canceled in like 2 weeks. Wow. And so the company revenue just plummeted.
Dropped.
And so I started actually taking out, and we had, again, this is a US based company. There's employees in the building. This is before I was using virtual assistants, but I was also using US employees. So we had like 20 something employees in the building, and I had an office and I had all these. Okay. So I went from this virtual world to then brick and mortar office space, and it was stupid. And so I started taking out debt to pay payroll, and I was just trying to keep the place alive, let people keep having jobs. And I figured, we're only a couple clients away from being back up to where we were. Let's do it. And a friend of mine who became a mentor said, hey, I was where you are. You should close down the business. And I'm just like, you're crazy. Oh. Okay. And at the time, he was doing $50,000 a month in income, but he didn't have any employees. He had like 3 people on his team. And I was thinking, well, dude, we're doing way more than you. Like, why would I close this down? Not thinking, because I was just being, I was so attached to it. And this was one of the lessons that got me out of like falling in love and being married to something and not being able to cut ties. And so I saw him months later, and he went from 50 to 400,000 a month as a service-based business. And I went, whoa, wow. And so I texted him and I said, hey, what are you doing? And he, or what'd you do? And he goes, you didn't listen to me, did you? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And so the next day or 2 days later or something, I fired everybody, closed down the business. And then I went backwards and I restarted with one service for one niche. And we went from 0 to 109 grand a month in 4 months. Then we doubled it. And then that's when I looked at the virtual assistant business and I was like, we've got a few clients there. Why don't I just scale that one the way I just did this other one? And then that company blew up. And so when the virtual assistant company exploded, it was like, okay, this is where it's at. Then COVID hit about a year and a half later, and everybody that we were doing business with all of a sudden kind of went, whoa, like we're running out of money. Like all of our clients aren't paying us. So everybody kind of ran into that. So we pivoted and created a few other services, went back to everybody. And then during COVID, the company exploded, like really grew. And so that's where we got the most growth was the beginning of COVID.
Yes, I can absolutely imagine, because for most of us, it was actually like that, because like in the first 3 weeks, everyone was sitting there like, oh, what is going to happen now? You know, and then cash flow, everything was normal, was like surprise, you don't even talk with anybody. You sit at home and everything is running. So, something. So this, I think for us, it was as well very, very interesting what happened actually, because it's as well, it went bigger instead of going down. But for me, it's really one thing that you mentioned before is you had an office, you had many employees. Oh, and this has actually put you down. If we would have done it, we would be out of business. I can tell you already. Yeah. At that time,
So I'm grateful that I was out of that side of the business. Like I didn't have employees of the office when COVID hit, because I think that would have been worse.
Oh, okay.
But we were already out of that, and I was just running an agency with just the virtual assistants. And so then we said, okay, all right, how do we do this with the virtual assistant company and just blow this up too? And then we did, but then COVID hit, and it went, wait a minute, and with COVID, we service businesses. So when their clients stopped paying because, everybody had to like start taking cuts, that affected us too. But then we pivoted our offer and went back to them, and then we were able to scale. So it was it was kind of interesting to watch it happen.
Okay. Amazing. Maybe you can give us a few tips, like how to scale a company, like service business, where you have employees, where you don't have a software or anything of that kind, how to, like, just a few tips from 0 to 100,000 per month. How would you
one service, one niche? Like, don't overcomplicate it. One of the biggest problems I think that businesses have is that they try to offer too much too fast. Sure. So if you look at some of the best small businesses that are out there, right, they're very, very niche, especially if you look at service-based businesses that are providing service to other businesses. They start out, the ones that become successful did like one thing. And so what we did is I ended up in the wedding industry, and we worked with wedding venues. And the way that we ended up doing this was my best friend owned a wedding venue. I convinced him to let me run a marketing campaign. We doubled his business in 14 months. And then he gave me equity in the company. And then, we've gone on to invest in other venues and so forth. But he kind of gave me the permission to go out and try some cool new things that I thought would work. And when they did, I said, okay, we have something that works really well. I can replicate this to other clients, but it was doing one thing. We had one marketing solution for one niche. We didn't serve photographers and DJs and caterers. We only served the venues. And when we were able to do that and do that successfully, everybody came to us because we became the place to book more weddings, to get more, of the marketing systems built and all that. So we literally just became the go-to for one single service that solved one problem in a very, very narrow niche. Okay. And I think that we could have even niched down even further, because what we ended up doing was, we had high-rise, buildings that had an event center in it in Manhattan. Then we had villas and estates in London and in Greece and, in all these other countries. And then we had barns in West Tennessee, right? So it was like such a huge mix. If we would have just gone small independent venues as our niche, we probably would have scaled faster. So I think that the quick lesson is one service, one niche. And if you can get the niche inside the niche, that's where all the money is. It's so much easier. Yeah.
Okay.
So then, with Level 9 Virtual, with that business, when we scaled that one, we just went directly to a certain group of agencies. We went after marketing agencies because I know what that's like. We went after marketing agencies who all used a specific software. And that was our niche.
Okay.
And then we got, we had 600 clients in just that niche. And it was like, hey, that's a decent sized business,
Well, that's something to think about, because
yeah,
I like the idea of going niche and then going after software within that niche. That's
so it's a micro niche, right?
Yeah,
all you do is the niche within the niche is where you can, because I can speak directly to that audience. I know their lingo. I know what their pain points are. I know what they're going through. When there's an adjustment to the software, I can address it. We can discuss, we really know inside and out exactly who those people are, what they're going through, what they're thinking about, what they're talking about, where they spend their time, where they spend their money. Like, we know all of it. So there's nobody else better to go after than that specific tiny market.
I agree completely, because this is exactly what we're doing as well, it's exactly the same.
Agreed.
We're as well in one niche, and we didn't move for 10 years out of that niche. I know it's a long time, but
that's awesome.
It's maybe something you haven't heard about, but it's Amazon listing optimization and translation services. So
I know
it's
exactly
really,
what that is. Yeah. We have some clients who have e-commerce companies, and they buy services like yours. Yeah.
Okay. So this is, I completely agree with you, because I know many companies, where I get already sick is when I go through their, what is it called? Through the header and click on the menu, and it's like big like this, and all the services coming out. I'm like, oh, another of these companies, that's so crazy. Right. I know there is some huge companies, like the number one in the world. There's many in the US which are one of this, but we talk about 10 billion service company, or some crazy amounts. But I don't talk about like the normal mid-level or small companies which coming up with a lot of services. I think we're completely on the same level, that we have to niche down and try to sell one service and be good in it and be known for that, and that's about it. Really good. For going a little bit further, because you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. We're most of the time, I mean, myself, I'm not speaking for you, sorry, but I'm even if I'm not working, I'm working. Okay, so I'm thinking, I don't. It's my nature. I don't. I enjoy time out. I enjoy time with family, everything, but I enjoy as well creating.
Sure.
So balancing this work life as an entrepreneur, maybe it's not. It don't apply to myself, but maybe as well, people like myself need to cut off sometimes, in order to get new ideas and some other things. So maybe you can give us some practical things, some practical tips, sorry, in managing all of this, staying motivated, or maintaining a healthy work-life balance. I mean, a part of going to the gym, this is as well something I do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the best things that people can do is they can get out of the business, get out of the space, right? So whatever your workspace is, like, leave it, go somewhere else, go somewhere that, might inspire you. For me, as soon as we go up into the mountains, whether it's hiking, whether it's riding, ATVs or snowmobiles or whatever, all of the ideas flow, right? Because I get out of the space that's just so, like, as soon as I step in here and I'm in front of my computer, I can get very busy doing work. But that's not where the creativity comes from. Exactly. Right? You sit down, you open your email, and it's just like, oh my, there's 100 messages in here I could spend all day responding to, but that doesn't make us money. And so I like to tell people, I say, look, like, if you were to imagine sitting in front of your computer, just doing the daily tasks, very rarely makes you money. It's the big ideas that you come up with that help you drive the company in a new direction. That's where the riches come in. And so if you can spend time in places that give you that, and for some people it's a busy city and it's in a coffee shop and it's, something like that, that's fine. Maybe it's outdoors in nature. Maybe it's that, maybe it's the gym. But if you don't get outside and you don't get away from your workspace, you're really going to hamper yourself, and you're just going to sit and you're just going to get busy in the doing of things. You're working in your business instead of on your business. And so I think the only way to work on your business is to get away from it and then actually look at it from a different perspective. And so maybe you take a notepad and you write down notes and you go spend time. And so I have a lot of different places that I go do that. And it's really important that I do that, because then I actually get to come up with ideas. And so for myself and my companies, I look at myself as a strategic advisor and an investor. So I advise my company and my teams on what the strategy of the company is going to be. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And then I choose what resources we're going to allocate. And so whether that's financial capital, it could be human capital, whatever they need to actually accomplish it, I get to say, okay, great, I'm willing to approve that. I'll honor it. And then you guys go and you run it. We come back in, we check in, and I do it from, the 30,000 foot view, but I'm not doing it from inside the business where I get lost in all of the nuances and the craziness. And so I think people need to get away from their business. That's one of the reasons that people do these retreats, like, their corporate retreats, is to get people out of the office, to get people away from their workspace. And as entrepreneurs, the cool part is we can do that.
Yeah. Like whenever we want,
we could literally go, okay, great. At noon, I'm leaving and I'm going to go somewhere else. And then you go somewhere else and all of a sudden an idea comes in. So what's been very helpful is I use voice memos in my phone.
Yeah.
Constantly. And all I do anytime a good idea comes up is I just constantly leave myself a voice memo. If I'm up in the mountains and I'm snowmobiling and, it's 10 degrees out, it's freezing, and I'll stop, pull out my phone, voice memo, whatever came up in my head, because if I don't put it down, you'll lose it. But that's where some of the easiest ideas have ever come from that we've been able to execute on.
Definitely. I think that's, I do the same, I do the same, like with voice memo, I write things down. But, as much as we speak about it, sometimes I don't do it, and, we're all different. We're all different in how we run business and how we live the daily life of the business, and different personalities. And I came across a lot of people, I don't know, maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, but there's different personalities, and there's some people who are actually not made for this, although they run a business, although they are maybe successful even, but they are not fit to go any further. So maybe you have seen this, and there's different personalities all over the game. Yeah. So what I think sometimes for these people is like maybe it's just better you put yourself back into an executive role, and just execute, like learning the whole game again, and then maybe go to another level again. So what is your point of view on that? Or just put
somebody in place that can take you to the next level.
Exactly.
So just because you're not supposed to and you can't, a lot of people hit that roadblock where they can't move themselves forward because they just don't have the skill. And that's okay, because there's a lot of people who have the skill to get you there. And so that's where good partnerships come into play, is when you find somebody who's got that skill that you don't have, and a lot of people say, well, I don't want to give up equity. I don't want to give up. It's like, well, okay, great. You could stay at $1 million, or you can give up 40%, right? Give up 40% to get to 5 million. 60% of 5 million is still more than $1 million, right? So like, I think people forget that there's the skill exists. The opportunity to do everything you want exists, whether you have the skill or not. You can have somebody else do it for you. And so, that's kind of where I believe like my skill set is. I always look for who can help me get to where I want to be, because I can't do everything myself, and I'm not skilled to do everything myself. So I'll let somebody else support me.
Oh, definitely. I see. I just came up with something as well. Because what you just mentioned, if you could put this in a quote, like in a quote, and because what we do is for anyone who's coming on the show, we have kind of a social media, it's kind of with the picture, and we have the quote on there. Yeah. And we put it on social media. So just give us a quote out of the last sentence, because I think I really like what you just said.
So I think, it's if you want to grow, find the who, not the how. Perfect. Right. And there's a really good book called Who Not How, which is where I stole it from. And I think that you should really leverage people over the skill that you may not have. Like, so anytime you're trying to accomplish anything anywhere, it's never a thing that does it. It's who executes it. So always look for who can do it. It might be somebody who's already a team member. It may be a partner. It could be a channel partner. It could be, part of your network. It could be a family member. Who knows? Somebody, though, is going to be the catalyst that gets you to execution. It's never a thing, ever. Right? And so even if it was a software, that software is going to be introduced to you somehow. And it's still not the thing, because now you have to put somebody in place to execute it.
Yeah.
The who could also be you if you're the person with the skill set. But every single time that we have a goal, we have a direction we want the company to go, the first thing that we do is we sit down and we say, okay, great. Who do we need to help us execute this and get where we want to go? Who is it? And it could be like, it's nobody in our organization. We need a partner who's, a capital resource officer who does, XYZ in another company, and we need them. And we need a relationship with them. And so we have to go out and do that.
Wow. So that is, that brings everything straight to the point. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of answers to anyone who has questions like this out there, 100%. And if anybody wants to talk with you, I mean, like contact you or something, where is the best place to get in contact with you? Through level 9, I'm sure. Yeah. You're pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. I got you already.
And, sure. You can, all social platforms, my assistant will respond to you, because I don't use social media personally. Okay. I don't even have it on my phone or anything, but you can email me.
I raised it just recently.
That's good. Yeah. I don't have it at all. I don't use it. I don't log on to it. It's great. But my team does, and they do it for me. Okay. So you can email me, Joe, Joe, at level9virtual.com. So Joe at level9virtual.com. Super easy to get in hold of me. Awesome.
We'll put it in the description. Great. Thank you so much. I mean, I wrapped it up, and it's something great information, great value you have given to the audience. And anyone who wants to get in touch with you, please just do it. Go through me, go directly to Joe. No problem. We're here for you, to support you guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.